I'm Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer, and I farmed on the Marlowe plantation for 18 years. I had charge of keeping up with the time and paying off, and I went down the 31st of August to try to register. And after I had gotten back home, Mr. Marlowe told me that I would have to go down and withdraw my registration or leave because they wasn't ready for that in Mississippi. And I said, Mr. Marlowe, I'm trying to register for myself. So I had to leave that same night after I had gone down in August. And then I spent one night with Mrs. Tucker, and after about 2 days in September, they shot in the house 15 times thinking that I was there.
What your feelings were after what happened in Winona with Annell Ponder and the other people when you were in Winona, Mississippi on the bus. I'd like to know what your feelings were after that.
I just felt more determined that wasn't nothing in the world then, could stop me. I felt more strong about working then than I'd ever felt in my life. But from the time that I began working, I never had a mind to stop. But after that happened to me in Winona, then I knew that it wouldn't be anything would stop me other than death. So now it's give me liberty or give me death.
What is this fruit, this seed, this cultivation from a bearing 40 acres and we're the mule of broken promises and American dreams turned native nightmares? In America, what's our crop? What are we planting and growing? Is our soil rocky with half-truths? Stories we learned under the watchful eyes of Confederate monuments, hollow men fashioned in fear, your alabaster kingdom built on the sinking sand of white supremacy will surely come tumbling down.
Oops, there I am. Oh God, isn't that awful? Okay, are we ready to go?
We are. Good
That's
morning.
not funny. It's awful. It's awful. But then, hey, I'm 90 years old. I have a right to look awful. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
Well, I'm as good as I can expect to be. Actually, I'm better than I should be, quite frankly.
I agree. Keys. Okay. Got my coffee. I haven't had my coffee yet.
Well, I'm having my tea right now, just as fast as I can.
Okay. You don't have to rush into anything. You can take our time. We're not
Okay,
really
let's do it.
too much of a schedule. So I wanted to circle back to what you were telling me about the origins of the white race. The white race.
There is no white race, and there is no black race. A man named Torquemada, as I understand it, and I've been looking and looking and looking, a man named Torquemada, who was a vicar in the Catholic Church in Spain, decided that he was going to turn everybody Christian into Catholics, and everybody who wasn't Christian was going to die. He had killed about 2,000 people before somebody made him aware of the fact that many of the people he had killed were Christians. At that point, he realized that you can't tell what a person's religion is by looking at them. So he had to figure out a way to discriminate, to define who might be or might not be deserving to die. And he set upon skin color. He called the lighter brown people, because we're all shades of brown, but he called the lighter brown people white because white is the color of goodness and purity. He called the darker brown people black because black is the color of savagery and evil in the dictionary. So he put us at polar opposites. If you're white, you have the right to kill anyone who is black because of the designation for you by skin color. Now, it didn't make sense then, and it sure as the devil doesn't make sense now. There are no black people, there are no white people, there are no red people, there are no yellow people. We are all shades of brown because we all originated in a country on the continent of Africa about 300,000 years ago. Now, the only reason my skin isn't as dark as yours is because those Africans moved farther and farther from the equator, and the farther they got from the equator, the lighter their skin was, because the less melanin their skin produced, because they didn't need protection from the sun when there wasn't any sun. So here I am, Irish and English, and spotted, but I ain't white. And I can't claim to be black because I'm not black, but I am brown. And we are all shades of brown. We've got to get that into these kids' heads. We got to start at birth. When a child is born, and you have to write down its color or its race on its birth certificate. For race, it better say human or Homo sapien. And for color, it better say a shade of brown, because that's what we all are.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned earlier about race and species and what Donald Trump could possibly be. I think you said something about because he was orange, maybe an alien.
Well, now Donald Trump, it's obviously, yeah. Well, he's not an alien. He is one of that group of humanoids who originated in the northern climates, and he is inclined to. They are Neanderthals. Eric the Red was probably Neanderthal. He's inclined to abdominal fat, orange hair, and poor memory. That's only three of the things that make him Neanderthal. He's a modern Neanderthal, which means he doesn't have a brain cell in his head. Pardon me. He does have a brain. He just hasn't used it yet. But now he's going to be better off now that he has Bobby Kennedy's son, because that person has a dead worm in his brain. So maybe a man with very few brains and one with a dead worm in his brain, maybe they will make a perfect combination. What do you think?
I think it's possible. With everything,
I think it's unfortunate that the bug in the worm in Bobby Kennedy's brain had more brains than Bobby Kennedy has. This whole thing, you see, the whole thing is so totally, utterly, and entirely ridiculous. It makes no sense at all. And then you throw J.D. Vance into that kettle, and what have you got? You mix up that kettle now. Vance and Kennedy and Trump. Oh my God. That makes the three witches in Macbeth look pretty good. Boil, toil and trouble, cauldron burn, and fire burn, and cauldron bubble. I can see those three men with their things mixing that kettle up in the Macbeth story. It's just out of the universe is out of order right now, because these three. I don't know what. There's no word to describe the three of them, but you put the three of their brains together, and you might.
Vance.
I think we're talking about one and a half men. Because each of them is about a half a male. A man is a big difference between a man and a boy, and it's more than years. It's also IQ points. So you really can't call any of these three men, but you can call them boys grown tall.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry.
I wanted to ask, when you started your brown eye, blue eye experiment back in the day, did you ever think we'd be at the point where we'd have a Black woman, well, a melanated woman running for president?
We have always had melanated people running for president. There are no unmelanated people on the face of the earth. So we have always had melanated people running for president. We've had lots and lots of melanated presidents, but we never called him that. As far as this being a woman, I was afraid that it would be Hillary, because I don't think she was ready. I think this woman is ready, because she has had experiences that Hillary Clinton nor any other melanemic woman has ever had. This woman knows stuff that I never had to learn. And I never had to learn it because I was not highly melanated. And because of the ignorance of this society worldwide, we don't see the brilliance in those people who produced us.
Mm.
And without, I think there's three things we have to remember for the rest of our lives. Number one, without what we call blacks, we would have no white we call whites. Every white, so-called white person is a so-called black person who faded. All we white people are is black people who faded. That's a fact, and we don't like it, but that's the way it is. So we've got to give up the word black and the word white and call us what we all are, which is shades of brown. Number two, without the Jews, there would be no Christians. People, particularly religious people, have to remember that Jesus Christ is where the word Christian came from, and he was an Ethiopian Jew who had kinky woolly hair and feet of bronze, which means he looked like you. He didn't look like me. We don't want to worship somebody who looks like you and a male. We want to worship someone. We'll worship someone who looks like me and male, but not like you, because we are so brainwashed to the idea of the rightness of whiteness. Number three, without women, there would be no men. Now, then we'll take exception to that because they'll say, well, you can't have a person without sperm cells. Oh, yes, you can. You can put two female mammal eggs together in a petri dish, break down the cell wall, combine those two eggs, and come up with another female mammal. They've done it in the laboratory time after time after time. Probably the first modern man was a modern woman. Probably the first human being was a woman. It wasn't a man, because if it hadn't been a woman, there wouldn't be any man. Excuse me for just a minute. Hello,
Okay.
I'm busy. Call back. Okay. So those three things we have to mention. If we could remember those three things, we can get rid of racism, sexism, and anti-Semitism, and that would give us time to deal with all the rest of our isms.
Mm.
We've got to get rid of those three first.
Well, wow. I'm just really sitting what you said. That's pretty profound.
What?
That's really profound. I'm just really
Well,
digesting.
no, it isn't profound.
Oh.
But it isn't profound. It is common sense. And common sense in uncommon amounts is what the world calls wisdom.
Wow.
It's common sense to realize that without women, there'd be no men. Without what we call blacks, there'd be no whites. And without Christians, without Jews, there'd be no Christians. We have to remember those three things when we get in an argument with somebody who says, well, I'm a Christian and I know, and we have a so-called former president who wants to be president again. And they asked him which of the 10 commandments is his favorite. And he said, well, I don't talk about that. That's personal. He has never read the 10 commandments. And if he had read them, he would have been a different kind of person from what he is. He has violated every one of the 10 commandments except number 2. He's violated all the rest. So I'm really surprised that these evangelical Christians are so proud of their allegiance with him, because he is the least Christ-like person I've ever seen in my life.
Hmm. Hmm. What's your hope for us all?
What's my hope for us all? My hope for us all is that teachers, educators at the preschool level start to teach the 3 R's of rights, respect, and responsibility. We haven't done a good job with the 3 R's of reading, writing, arithmetic, because only one of them begins with R. Writing begins with W and arithmetic begins with A. It's time to get rid of that idea. The 3 R's of rights, respect, and responsibility say that every person on the school campus and every person on the street, every person in the bus, every person in the home has rights, and it's absolutely essential that we respect those rights. And if we don't respect those rights, we should be held responsible for it. And if we would start teaching that at the kindergarten level, at the preschool level, and when that kid is delivered in that delivery room, the doctor has to look at that child and say, now there's another person who has rights, which I must respect, and I will be held responsible if I don't respect the rights of this child. When that child comes out of that mother, that child has the same rights as every other child in this country or on the face of this earth. But we don't feel that way about it. We've been taught to think that only those who are white could possibly have rights. Got news for them. Nobody is white. So we can get over that first.
You've just, is there, I'm speechless. Is there anything you would like to add? Because you knocked all my questions out of the park quickly.
Well, sure, I'd like to. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Well, it seems perfectly reasonable to me that, as my dad would say, you know the difference between right and wrong. Now do the right thing, God damn it. And I think he just swore that's the wrong thing, and he'd give me that. Yeah, and he'd give me that. Open your mouth now, Jane, and you're going to find out when to keep your mouth shut. And I'd keep my mouth shut, but I kept my mouth shut. But that locked into my brain. You know the difference between right and wrong. Now do the right thing, God damn it. Now if we all just do the right thing, we won't have this kind of problem. If we teach that everybody has rights, those rights are to be respected, and if you don't respect them, you'll be held responsible for it. That will do away with a whole lot of these isms, because it's wrong to judge people on the basis of your ignorance about the color of their skin. If that's your ignorance, you deal with your ignorance. Don't try to pretend that that isn't your problem. Racism is the problem of the person who is expressing it, and it is being visited upon the person who is their victim. Now, you can't have victims without attackers. Make no mistake about this. In order to have victims, you have to have somebody who wants to victimize them. And we have been taught to victimize people on the basis of a dreadfully ignorant thing that was done in the 1500s. The word race, to mean a specific group of people, according to the dictionary, came out of France in 1580. 1580! Before that, we were all just members of the family of man. After that, and the Spanish Inquisition, we became black and white. And then because black and white worked, then we called Native Americans red, who weren't red. They painted themselves red for special occasions, so the colonists called them red people. Then we went to Asia and we called those people yellow because we didn't understand about the effect of their diet on their skin color. So that, but we're all members of the same race, and we're all members of the same color group. It's time to start educating people instead of miseducating people. And you have to start with the teachers. Teachers just go wild when I say to a group of groups of teachers used to ask me to come and talk to them, and I would say, okay, folks, here's the problem. And when I'd say there are no white people, there are no black people, but everybody would be angry. White people were angry because they thought they were white. Black people would be angry because they thought they were black. Nobody wanted you to say you're all members of the same race and you're all members of the same color group. Get over it. You're educators and you're being ignorant. Now, how can ignorant people educate others?
Wow. Thank you.
Well, no, is that a perfectly simple thing to realize? That if you still think in skin colors and you're thinking black and white and red and yellow, you aren't thinking.
True.
Bless you.
Thank you. Wow.
You're welcome.
I think I have everything I need. Just like that.
Well, you're a lucky person to have everything you need. Someday I'm going to have everything I need. But,
Well, I'm sorry. Well, hey, within this context, you know what? Maybe that is because that's part of mantras and meditations and all of that. I always have everything I need, so I'm gonna stick with that, at least for today.
You believe me, you don't have everything you need, but someday you will.
Thank you.
Because our needs are constantly changing. Yeah, because as you get older, your needs change every day. So every day you have some other needs that you never had to worry about before.
True.
Yeah, growth and change and aging are all difficult.
This is my third time speaking to you, I'm really hope I talked to your daughter Sarah over Instagram a good bit. Um, I really hope someday soon to be able to hug you in person. I'm really grateful for you. Thank you.
Well, hey, look at what, be careful now. Without someone like you, who look like you, there would not be anyone me.
Mhm.
I have to be grateful to you and people like you. You were here, people who look like you were here long, long, long before people who look like me were. And we have to remember where we came from. And you know where you came from, and I know where I came from, and they were the same damn place.
Mm.
Okay?
Yes. Well, I'm gonna let you get back to your tea and your call. And
Okay. This is
I'll
well, have
just
we accomplished anything here today?
absolutely. And I will just check in on you from time to time if that's okay.
That I'll be around. I'll be
Okay.
around and getting rounder.
All right, I'll let you go. Enjoy the rest of your day.
And
Bye.
that's another, that's another. You too. Bye now.
All right, bye. Today we have, so I don't mess up his name. Could you please pronounce it, Mister?
Yeah, my name is Kiese Layman.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Key essay.
That's
Get it
it.
right. Because I was messing you up for a while, calling you Kisei and a bit of
That's
everything
it
else.
though, but that's it too though. That's my granny. That's what she called me.
Really? Because you know we got these names like that. I'm
Yeah,
Mika.
yeah. My grandmama ain't never pronounced my name right in my whole life. Not one time. Not one time. She ain't spelled this shit right on the cards. It always be weird, but like that's how it's supposed to be.
So yeah, when you talk about that and you talk about the black women that you know and you love in your family, is really rich history because you know they had different life experience than we do.
Right.
And when we talk about vote like a black woman, you know, what particularly comes to mind? Because I know I think about my lineage. What about you? How do you see that?
Yeah, I think about my grandmother who refused to move up to Gary or Detroit or Chicago. She stayed in Scott County, Mississippi when everybody else left. And, you know, she stayed and she worked the fields and she worked in white folks' homes and eventually she worked in chicken plants. But, you know, she couldn't vote until she was 30 something. And she had children who saw her be politically engaged in the church, but not able to actually vote. And one of those children was my mother, who became a political scientist, partially because she saw my grandmama toil politically. And also, like, she saw how my grandmama valued the vote. You know, my grandmama was always talking about candidates. And I think
Yeah.
that really sprinkled into my mama, who became a political scientist. And then, you know, because I was the only child, I read a lot and listened to her. So I just think like that literally is our lineage. But it starts not even with the vote. It starts with my grandmama deciding she wasn't gonna leave. And then realizing one of the burdens of not leaving is that, you know, our state and black people and both, particularly black women, they didn't align, right? So she was one of those people who had to do the poll taxes. She had to go in there and try to, you know, recite Mississippi history that nobody knew. So it meant a lot for her. But again, what I wanted to also say is she also taught us that the vote was just part of the strategy toward liberation. Like the vote and liberation weren't the same thing, but it was a part of our strategy. And my mama learned that from her. My mama passed that on to me, and I try to embody that in my work and in my life. So
I think it's really important what you said because we forget that we're not that far generation wise. Like somebody in your family, if you're African American, has paid some poll taxes and done some things.
yes, indeed.
So
Yes,
it's not just in the history book. Like that history lives on in us.
right. And you know, a lot of us have these very intimate relationships with our grandparents, you know, for lots of different reasons. So I remember, you know, when my mama sometimes would send me to live with my grandmama, I remember, I mean, my grandmama would get Sunday school clean to go to vote. Part of
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
because she thought if she looked anything less, they would come up with some reason for her not to be able to vote. So it's
Mm.
sad but it's also just like the memories are so clear, and that's the abundant part. But the sadness is that the best of Mississippi had to, there are all these conditions that they could vote. You had to dress really clean, you couldn't step out of line, you couldn't look some certain people in the eye. This is after it was already legal. So that's our lineage, you know what I'm saying? So we got to accept it, and again, for me, it means that voting is one way that we get closer to liberation and freeing the land that a lot of our grandparents worked. So
Yeah, when you look at the whole thing, like when my grandparents, my grandfather couldn't read or write,
wow.
so my last name is misspelled from my cousin's last name because it's what whoever was recording our birth, that's how they spelled it. That's what
Right.
we stuck with. So I think it's also just really shifting in education, considering you being a professor and what all you've done in the lives that you've really been able to pour into. What would you say is a lesson that you would want people to think about this election? I know you touched on it a bit, but like moving forward and being, with your words, we've talked before, and I talked about how your words carry weight. Like,
Right.
which words would you want people to think about? Which words do you want folks to take into the voting booth?
Share. That's the primary word. Like when I think about the lineage and I think about my grandmom, I think about someone who showed me how to share, meaning that if I have something, it necessarily belongs to the community that made me. You know what I'm trying to say? So like sharing is a way. I think when you get in that voting booth, what I'm trying to do, because I don't think these candidates necessarily have love for us the way I would want them to, but I'm asking who is going to be the best at sharing, right? And that's who usually I'm going to support. And then when I get up out that voting booth, I got to go about living that word. I can't be like, I'm gonna vote for the person who shares and then in my real life not do it. So it's just it's just like a familial ethic that we have. Like if we have, you have. If you have, maybe you want to share with me. You know what I mean? But that's all from my granny, and that's all from her. That's her. Like she's a person. Uh, you come to her house and you need something, she gonna make sure you gonna leave with it. Now, if you do her dirty, she gonna get you. you know. But if you come and insert and in need of something and we have it, I was just always taught we supposed to give. And I think voting also is just one way you can give to yourself, but also to people around you.
Yeah, yeah. Um, that's very true. You had mentioned before something about your aunt Sue.
Yeah, my aunt Sue is a preacher in Jackson. And it's so interesting. Like she grew up, it's incredible, still the best singer that I've ever heard live. She's incredible. But the way gender roles and stuff work for black women, she couldn't, if she was a man, she would have been running the church by the time she was 17 because she was that
Mm,
gifted. You know what I'm saying? But in,
mm,
in the absence of that, she could sing and all of that. So like maybe a decade or so ago, she actually like got her own church. And one of the things that she does is that she preaches and teaches a lot of like formerly incarcerated people. So I just think sometimes when we start thinking about who can vote and who can't vote, I think about my aunt Sue, who's doing one of these people who's trying to get like voting rights reinstilled into people who are formerly incarcerated, but also every day trying to teach and learn with them to let them know that even though the state might say you can't vote, you still can learn and you still can love. So that's one of the things that again she learned from my grandmama. My grandmama is the root of all of this stuff for us.
wow, that is awesome.
Yeah.
So, I know you're a busy man. I just wanted to thank you so much for taking time out to support this project and the light and all you are for the community, especially in Mississippi. Do you want to leave us with any parting words, or you think you left it all on the table?
Hey, I'm just appreciative to be in the presence of the art god, fam, and I
Oh
can't wait till we
Lord.
all get together and create something. That's my dream and my hope, and that's what they never wanted, but it's too
Right?
late. It's too late.
I'm looking forward to that too. We got some stuff we talked about before we got on. Let's link up on that.
Yes,
But
sir. Yes, indeed.
how can people keep up with you? How can they find out more about what you got going on?
Yeah, I'm trying to hide, but if you want, I'm on Twitter. My name KSA Layman. Instagram, I think it's the same thing. But mainly those are the two play. I have a website. My name KieseLaymon.com, KIESELAYMON, and I'm writing in some everywhere. So you use them Googles if you want to if you need to find me.
Well, otherwise, you hide, you
I'm
incognito.
trying to. I got to do this work. I got to get these books done in the next few months, so I got to go into hiding in a little bit.
All right, well, good. Well, thank you, man, for your time, and we're gonna log off.
Thank you so much, Talmika.
All right, today we are joined by the fabulous Anjanou Ellis of the Clark Sisters, of everything, and Hippolyta herself of Lovecraft. Thank you so much for being here. Go ahead on and say your name. What was this? What did she say? I can't remember what it was. Claim your name or something like that with the I'm not going to ruin it. That was episode 7. I'm not going to ruin it. But thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having this, giving me this time to talk to you. I appreciate it.
Character, when she's given the option to say her name, to claim her name, she comes back to I am Hippolyta. With that part, with what your character has done, you and I had a conversation before about how it has opened up places inside of us Black women, voices that we dare not speak. And, just thanking you for your courage to be able to, your courage and your talent and all of that, to be able to rise to the moment, and you felt seen through that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to vote like a Black woman, what exactly does that mean to you? Like when you think about that phrase?
A lot comes to mind. I Fannie Lou is a huge hero of mine, but also Victoria Gray Adams, Annie Devine, Ella Baker. Ella Baker's not from Mississippi, but Ella Baker spent, I would say, I'm sure she would say, some of her most important years, formative years for her as a leader, was spent in Mississippi, and her relationship with Fannie was pivotal, I think, for her. And what we know of her, politics, what we know about her philosophy. So they are, in terms of, I would say they are not my origin story. My origin story, in terms of political, in terms of a political journey, my origin story starts with my grandfather and my grandmother. My grandfather gave shelter to freedom riders. In 1964, his church was bombed. He was arrested for bombing his own church. He was able to come home. A lot of people did not go home when they were arrested by the police. Some people never saw their family members again when that happened, but my granddaddy was able to come home and resume his life with my family. My family has always been politically active, has always, and voting was essential to that. My mother and my mother was, would sponsor candidates and, sort of be the spear carrier for them in Pike County. And it was just what we did. It wasn't anything we talked about,
Right.
It was just what we did. And I think that my grandfather planted that seed, and my aunts and my uncles and my mother kept that going. My mother was kicked out of Alcorn for protesting, and she went to Georgia to work for SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. So, that was all in my home. You know what I mean? And it wasn't like, as I said, we talk about politics and stuff on Christmas and Thanksgiving, like all Black folks do. We don't not talk about that. That is what we talk about. We can't wait to get to each other and have those kinds of conversations. We don't do what the white folks do. Like we don't talk about money and politics. No, that's what we do. We cannot wait, So I'm sure you can attest to that. So, it was just a part of me in the way that I ate, catfish on Saturday afternoons. Like that's how I was raised. I don't know not to do that. If that makes any sense, I don't know not to do that. And then in terms of like how that translates into my now, I think that how should I say this? I don't think. I do believe that there is something that permeates through Black women that is specific to being an African American woman that is unlike the reality of anybody else in the entire world. Mm-hmm. Like nobody. And I think it is because we are the descendants of chattel slavery. And I think it is because, there was never a division of labor for us. We were always in the field right along with our husbands and lovers and fathers. We were right there with them. There was no option. Oh, you stay at home. I'm gonna go get in the field. No, that was always the case. We were always working beside them. So we never understood that we could stay at the house in any way, economically, politically, culturally. We always had to be present. We always had to be protectors. Right. We always had to do that. So as I said, I don't know how not to do that. I think that Black women don't know how not to do that. Right. I don't think it's a choice for us. And I think that's why it comes so natural to us. That's why we never like, oh, I don't know how I should vote here. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know who. That's just never the case. It has never been like that. And I'm not trying to make Black women a monolith, but I do think what does unite us. And I don't think this is a reduction that makes us like not individuals. I actually celebrate this, that it seems that we have decided without you and me saying a word to each other, that we are the vanguard. We are standing in the balance. We are standing in the middle of the Earth's destruction and Earth's future. Without you and me, Telemachus, saying a word to each other, we feel that. Right. We feel that. And we vote selflessly. We campaign we act in ways that's not rooted in, okay, how does this best serve me and mine? Right. Yeah. And like I said, I don't think we don't know how to do anything other than that.
Yeah, I think it's one of those that hits on a lot of it. But the other part, like, with best serving me and mine, I think like I wore this today, like on Malcolm X jersey, like what he said about Black women being the most disrespected women in America. But at the same time, what serves me and mine, because we're so low on the totem pole, it automatically lifts other communities, because when you lift the bottom up, everybody gets lifted up. Exactly. So, and because of that, we are, I had someone else talk about how Black women have always been those in the communities, those in the churches with the potlucks, and everything came down with Breonna Taylor. I just got off Facebook. I just didn't say, all my social media stuff. And I would get text. Or I remember one friend just sent me like a $20 that was like for something that makes you happy today. Just something like that, like a stepping back and acknowledging the privilege. And I will never know how you feel, but if you want to talk, if you don't want to talk or whatever, I see you. So I'm grateful for those. And not just white women, but like other brown women too, just kind of stepping in and listening is the main thing, just listening. And I do think there needs to be a platform, which I spoke to someone else about. It's called White Nonsense Roundup, where white people are educating white people on racism and all that stuff. And it's not more labor put onto black women, as being having friends of different women. They're like, well, explain racism or explain microaggressions or explain all of that. Like, you're too busy trying to survive it in order to teach it as well.
I'm gonna say this. Nicole Hannah Jones. I was listening to her the other day, and she said something that was just so profound. She was like, "Why do you look to us to fix it? You didn't look to us to build it."
That's another word right there. That is, whoa. That's a big word. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time and for jumping on and for the light that you are to all of us.
Thank
you. How can we support you, sister?
Just keep doing this work, keep doing what you're doing. I think, I don't know if I'm gonna stand outside of the voting precincts and every time I see a white woman going in the every time I see a white woman go in the room, I'll be like, girl, don't do it. Don't do it. Like, is that what we need to do now? Like, don't do that.
You got an idea for me? Maybe we need shirts. We could just wear shirts and just say "Vote like a black woman."
Vote like a black woman.
Yeah, little stuff underneath it, like what that means.
But here's the thing, Telemaque. This is what I'll challenge you. This is what I'll challenge. A challenge to both of us. I think maybe what we need to do in terms like what you were talking about to that and white folks nonsense roundup. How I'm misstating it. But I think in the next couple weeks, we need to challenge some smart white women and smart white women whose hearts and minds are in the right place, and say to them, talk directly to those white women who, for some reason, are still on the fence about voting for him, and have them reach out to them. Seriously, have them reach out to them and make the case to them why you should not do that. Because there's these sort of general kind of platforms, and I think we are past that point now. We need to somebody needs to talk to them like, look, sister girl, listen, don't do that. You are voting against yourself when you do that. I know it's hard for you to not be selfish, but you have to understand that the more this man can stack the Supreme Court, the more your health is going to be endangered.
Right.
It's not just going to be because you can't. It's not about abortion. It's not just about abortion. It's other things. It's the general health care of women. So that's what we need. That's what we need. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to my preacher friends, and I'm going to say to them, listen, you need to reach out to these white Christians, and you need to talk to them like you and I are talking, and be like, sister friend or brother man, you call yourself this and that. How does this man who you are standing up for? Because there's been a silence about that from the church in a way that has to stop. So that's the kind of stuff I'm gonna be involved in and want to be involved in the next couple weeks. This is talking in platforms. That's all good, but now we are at that point. If we don't do something else, this man could be, back in there in a couple weeks. So,
Right.
yeah.
Very true. Well, I'm gonna again thank you for your time and coming on and for all that you are and all that you do for us.
Thank you, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right, take care.
Hello, everybody. I'm so happy that you all are here. I wish I could be there with you. This is your sister Mississippian, Ingenue Ellis. And in the early 90s, I lived in New York City. I became pregnant. I was in graduate school at NYU. I became pregnant and I had an abortion. It was a decision that I made because it was my choice and it was my right. And I want that right and that choice to be able to continue for every woman in this country who needs it and wants it. 9 people, most of them conservatives, sitting in a room somewhere, should not be able to make a decision that affects more than half the citizens of this country. So I say, bans off our bodies and ban some of these weapons. So happy that you are here today. I am excited to fight with you and partner with you in this fight for reproductive justice.
This one with water. When you look at the history of Black women, of how we're basically gynecology started in our wombs, and how all these decisions will affect us more so than any other population because of institutional racism and all the obstacles that are in our way, even though they're like, it affects everybody. It affects poor people, but disproportionately, poor people, the majority of them are people of color. What made, what gave you, because I don't think I've ever seen you speak about your personal experience with abortion. Like, what was the catalyst to make you open up about that when you did for the video for Shiro?
Well, probably out of, I don't think it's just like my I don't give a fuck attitude. Sometimes it's just being naive. I don't know what it is, but I don't care. You know what I mean? Like I really was born with that gene of like, I don't care. And I want it's important that people know that women have abortions. It's important that people know that it's not some person miles away, that it's not this sort of northern aggression.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're not refighting civil war here. You know what I mean? Like women in your life have abortions, and they're not gonna stop having. They're not gonna stop having abortions. They're gonna figure it out, and they may go to a doctor, and they may not go to a doctor.
Right.
So I feel I feel it's so much about just being a woman. Period. That we don't talk about it. We don't talk about it. We don't say these things. We just keep it to ourselves and try to work it out, I guess. And we are failing each other by doing that, because then we are decreasing our army, and we need an army to fight this battle. And you first start by, okay, what's my experience? How do I qualify this beyond being a woman? I qualify because I've had an abortion, and I do not, and also saying I don't regret it.
That part, yeah.
Also, not having any shame about it.
Yes.
Because I've been in situations where women are explain away why they did it, and it was a bad time in my life, and blah 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 blah. And of course, people have their different measures of personal accountability and morality or whatever that is, and they are allowed. We're all allowed for that, allowed to have that, of course. But I don't have that. I don't carry that. I don't figure that into my morality. It was a decision that I made, it is a decision that I stand by, and every woman should have that. Every person should have that. Um, have that space to make that for themselves. And you think about um, these children, and I was talking about my sister, talking to my little niece who's just turned 10, in August, and I was just thinking that her cycle is gonna come on soon. Because I was 11 when mine came on, and so she could have a child. She can have a child. If somebody runs up on her and rapes her or whatever, this little baby could get impregnated and under these circumstances be forced to have. It's brutality. It's brutality. I think of Brian Stevenson. I watched his TED Talk. I listened to his TED Talk the other day, and he was talking about the death penalty. And he said, we ask these questions, does someone deserve to die? And he said we should be asking ourselves, do we deserve to kill? Do we deserve to kill? And I think about that, in terms of women, the experience particularly of black women, how our very womanhood has been taken from us. Taken. We have not been allowed it, Talamika. We have not been allowed the fullness of our womanhood since we have been on these shores. And this is just another way to retake it. It's just another way to retake it. And so the question should be not, do we have the right, but do you have the right? After everything that you've done. Because the great thing that he used was this example of how, he was at some kind of conference in Germany, and he was talking about the death penalty, and they were, bemoaning the fact that the United States had the death penalty. And a German person got up and he said, imagine the German citizens deciding that their history of exterminating Jewish people, that they would decide to take the life of Jewish people. After that they were going to do that. They have this history of killing Jewish people, and then they're going to institute a law where they could further take the lives of Jewish people. And he analogized this to this country, that this country has historically had genocide for African American people, right? Through history, through the slave trade. And then we institute a policy that would further kill black folks. Do you have a right to do that? And because it's us being killed all the time. Us being killed all the time. Do you have the right to do that? And with black women, do you have the right to take that from her? After everything you've taken from her. That she has never fully been fully a woman since she has been on these shores. As you said, the science of gynecology happened with black women, and now you're going to take it from her? Then you're going to do it again? No, you don't have the right to do that.
Looking at, I think about this state as a prime example of what repeated Republican leadership looks like. Like our governor has been Republican for eons. I think Musgrove was the only Democrat to ever win in the 90s. And all of our senators represent every house, every branch of government is controlled by the Republicans. And then you look at the Brett Favre situation as opposed to the city of Jackson not having proper drinking water. But Mississippi, we don't have proper drinking water, and we have the highest infant mortality rate of any state. We're like a third world country. Like, I myself personally nearly died in childbirth, giving birth in the state of Mississippi. But we were the state that pretty much took the right away from the nation through Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization for abortion. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't have thoughts. I have fury. I have fury. With the Jackson water crisis, when you listen to how Tate Reeves speaks in the way that he speaks about Jackson, you would think that he's talking about some country in South America. You would think that he is talking about this, philanthropic thing that he's doing,
Right.
post disaster in, Uruguay or something like that. I'm trying to help the Uruguayans out. You know what I mean? Like that's how he speaks, as opposed to that's your job, sir. These are your citizens just as much as they are Chokwe Lumumba's, who's a mayor of Jackson. Just as much as those citizens are Chokwe Lumumba's citizens, they are as much your citizens, and you are as accountable for them as he is, if not even more. But to hear him talk, he's talking like he's doing them a favor.
Right.
Am I right about
Right.
it?
Right.
He's talking about Jacksonians as if he's doing them a favor. And here's the other thing. Tate Reeves, if the folks in Jackson have drinking water, Tate Reeves has drinking water because Tate Reeves lives in Jackson. So unless he's getting water from somewhere else, he's doing himself a favor by making sure that Jacksonians have drinking water. But let's be clear about this. Let's be clear. Let's call a thing what a thing is. Even after Mississippi got rid of the Confederate flag in 2020, the next year and the year after that, Tate Reeves made April Confederate History Month. He just did it a few months ago. Now, by him doing that, he is saying, I'm going against the wishes of my entire state, because this state voted to keep that, to get rid of the flag. The legislature decided to get rid of the flag, but then we had to vote.
Mm-hmm.
We had to vote on a flag, and if that didn't go through, that was, you know what I mean, it was going to revert, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we voted for that flag that's flying now. We voted for that flag. In the face of that man, that man was like, okay, cool. April is still gonna be Confederate History Month.
Right.
Now, what does that say about him? What does that say about him? That says what he. That says who he is. That's an expression of his moral core. That the Confederacy is still an expression. Confederate ideas and ideals are still his personal expression, which is what? A celebration of slavery, celebration of Jim Crow, celebration of segregation. That's who that man is. That's who Tate Reeves is. Do you think a man like that cares whether black folks have drinking water or not?
Mm.
Let's call a thing a thing. Let's call a thing a thing. Do you think Phil Bryant cares if black folks have access to assistance? He don't care. But you know who he does care about? Brett Favre. Getting that gym facility or whatever he did at USM. He cares about that. And you know what's so crazy, Talamika, it was so insane to me, is someone pointed this out the other day. Is that you would think that story would be every other story on the national news, on ESPN, and it's not. It's not. But they're talking about what happened with the coach from the Boston.
Yeah.
That ain't got nothing. Them grown people.
Right.
That's what's going on with them. But the governor of Mississippi conspiring with a Hall of Fame quarterback to take money out of the mouths of impoverished people in one of the poorest states in the country. That's a story. That is a story. But they're gonna get away with it. They're gonna go. And one of the reasons they're gonna get away with it, I'm telling me, and this feeds back into your question, is folks don't care about Mississippi.
Mm.
Folks don't care about what happens here. And that is why you asked me, how do I feel about the Republican this, the Republican that, the Republican this. These things are allowed to happen because of the indifference of this country regarding Mississippi. Go ahead.
we just pause 1 second? We gotta go up on this a little bit.
Yeah. There we
Thank
go.
you so much. There we go. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah. The indifference that this country has regarding the state. And, Fannie Lou Hamer said brilliantly, Mississippi is not Mississippi's problem. Mississippi is America's problem. And everything that we do, everything that you do, everything that I do, we have to look at it as like, oh, not just we working on something that's Mississippi, something that's going on in Mississippi. We have to look at it as something that is going on in this country, because it will make you feel like Mississippi is separate from this country.
Right.
You know what I mean? That we are our own civilization, and we are not. We are not.
Whew, that is great. Well, considering all of that, what do you feel is the future for Mississippi? Like, a future, what would you want the future of Mississippi to look like?
I don't know, Talmika. I mean, and I think I have to say that, I don't know. I don't know. And I think when I say I don't know, I think that my uncertainty is probably a function of my frustration. Because you're doing this work, I'm doing my own kind of work, and so many other people doing work on their own.
So, hey guys, thank you for hanging in. I couldn't share the whole thing. So, I want to thank Anjanou for being on board. We are going to work on the rest of that. The rest of those pieces will be teased out in further documentaries. But I want to thank you guys for being on. I hope you had a great time so far. We are bringing in our last, but certainly not least guest, the fabulous, amazing, uber talented Rita Brent.
Hey, Talmika.
Hey, I like the hat. Oh, look at you with your shirt on. Okay.
You see me repping.
Yeah.
How's it going?
It's going well. It's really nice to see you. I did not get a chance to rush into the awesomeness that is your videos, but we will definitely do that in a bit. I just wanted to thank you for taking time out of your schedule for being here. Where are you coming from? You're usually everywhere.
This time I am coming from Atlanta. I performed at the Military Influencer Conference earlier this week and opened up for Donnell Rawlings, who's on tour with Dave Chappelle. And that was really good because I'm a veteran and all of the comedians on this show were veterans. And so it was great to hear the humor from veterans and our different experiences.
Let's talk Darnell Rawlings. Are you talking about Ashley Larry?
Yep, from the Chappelle Show, Ashley Larry. Yeah, a whole veteran. Yeah, I got to open for him this past week.
That is awesome. I did not know he was a veteran.
Me neither.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. Thank you for your service. You're always out here killing it. I just wanted to ask you, like we worked on stuff before and talked about your grandma. She's awesome. How are you feeling about this election coming up? Like, how's grandma feeling? Have you talked to grandma any about it?
Oh, of course. That's all we talk about is politics, church, and food. And how she ain't never gonna get on the plane. She is bothered by the state of politics. And you know what I mean when I say that, and you have to think about her history, the things that she saw coming up, surviving segregation, and she used to pick cotton in the Mississippi Delta. And so she was alive when a lot of these transformative things were happening for Black people, so to see all that happening, the inspiration that came from something like the civil rights movement, the heartache as well, but some of the progress that we were able to make then to turn around and you have somebody like Trump in office, she's flabbergasted, which says a lot to me. That's defining because she has seen a lot. So for her to be off-put and flabbergasted by this, I'm like, okay, this is a real regression. And she's just like, it just don't make no sense. I just don't understand. I'm like, none of us do, none of us do. Yeah.
What about when you made the first Kamala song? Have you ever had any interactions with Kamala herself?
Oh, no, I've been very close to the fire. So her sorority sisters, she's a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. the first time I dropped the Kamala song, her line sisters, the ladies that she pledged with at Howard, they called me just out of the blue. I was living in New York at the time, and they called me. It was like 10 or 11. I started not to answer the phone because, Black people don't answer random numbers. And I answered the phone, and she was like, "Oh, we're Kamala's line sisters, and we love the song, and we let her hear it, and she loves it as well." So I've not gotten to hear a personal, I'm digging the songs from her, but people connected to her have said that she is a fan of the first song for sure. I imagine she's been too busy to hunker down and listen to the second one, but the first one for sure, I know she appreciated.
What did you want to do when it came to the second one? Like, because I know the first one was when she was just vice president. And I got to be honest, like I've seen snippets, but I haven't really listened to the second one. So, what was your goal when you went back in and cut the second one, the second version?
It was to have a lot more attitude, more like a she deserves to be here. Many people explained it. They're like, this is like a diss track, like for her haters. And I was like, well, on the heels of Kendrick Lamar and everything that he's done, it is a West Coast beat produced by Mississippi producer Fifth Child. So I wanted the second song to have a little more attitude, not necessarily be controversial. I am like standing on the top of a cyber truck rapping these lyrics. People did not understand that I was being facetious and trolling. A lot of people were like, well, I don't like the video because you got a cyber truck in it. I'm like, but I'm saying my message on his truck. It ain't nothing he can do about it. I'm trolling. That's all it is. It is an expression of creative freedom. So yeah, I meant for the second song to have more attitude and like, yo, she deserves to be here. Don't question that. Don't question her accolades. Don't question her tenure, because folks just act like she just started doing this. And I mean, she has skin in the game. Skin has been, it's been burned, it's been stitched up, like she got real skin in the game. So like put some respect on her name. Seriously. I say that in the song and I mean it.
Okay. What does the phrase vote like a Black woman mean to you?
Oh gosh. Unfortunately, it means be the example, be the model, show people how it's supposed to be done, because they keep saying Black women to the rescue again. So I think Black women just in general have always been on the front lines, whether we have been the face of movements, regardless, we have been on the front lines. And, voting like a Black woman means being unapologetic and being fearless and voting against even what your husband may want you to vote, because I've been hearing a lot about that. Like it's a whole movement of women that are trying to figure out how to secretly vote for Kamala. So vote like a Black woman to me just means being bold and standing on business like we have done historically.
Okay. All right. I'm going to pull up the video here in a second, but I just wanted to kind of thank you, of course, for what all you've done, but what are you looking forward to November 6th, the day after?
Man, we're gonna party. Listen, we're gonna party. I'm already planning celebration parties, election parties, you know what I'm saying, like performing. I believe in celebrating with music and art, not necessarily alcohol, but this is going to be monumentous. And I'm saying going to be because I have full faith that we're going to come out victorious, so not just making history, but making real change. And like Kamala says, like we're just protecting the soul of our nation. Like I really, really want her to win, and I really, really don't want him to win because that to me is just going to send us back. And we are not going back. So we'll just be celebrating that okay, finally we are moving in the right direction in this country.
Awesome. Well,
if you're a web designer, here are 4 Wix Studio features you gotta know.
You gotta get the ad-free version telling me what's up.
I know. I'm slacking. I love how you just called me out on that. So without further ado, we're going to jump into the remix of your Kamala song, and then we will come back and kind of tie everything up.
All right.
If I can remember.
Shout out to Kamala Harris. It's your girl Rita B. I ain't no rapper, but I got bars. Let's go. Kamala, Kamala, ooh. I'm so lit, I don't know what I'ma do. Now that she running with Biden, I'm vibing. You mad and you whack, a black woman made you. She reppin' AKs, I'm reppin' DST, but we are all the same. Call it Greek unity. She is my sister and I'm her pusher. If it ain't black excellence, it is irrelevant.
Remix. I'm back. It's Kamala, not Kamala. Put some respect on her name. I'm back. Kamala, Kamala. Ooh. I'm so lit, I don't know what I'ma do. And now that she running for president, we ready like Freddie. Joe chose us, so we coming through. She reppin' AKA, I'm reppin' DST, but we are all the same. Call it Greek unity. She is my sister, I am her pusher. First lady, president, she is the president. Say it with me now. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. And we will. Get on your left, right, making strides to revitalize. So get in line, Now I don't swing that way, but we gon' get some straight. If you strictly misogyny, you gon' learn today. Just cause you say she ain't black, that don't mean she ain't. Just cause you think she can't lead, that don't mean she can't. Oh, she ain't this, she ain't that. Well, let's talk about what she is. Prosecutor, straight shooter, you a talker, she a doer. Know you're doing something right when they mad on the right. Take a seat, Harris haters, I'ma be here all night. Yeah, I'm a jokester, but I'm standing for my rights like I'm supposed to. Can't sit by me if you a racist, you ain't Rosa. Pontificating, commentating while she elevating. I know you don't, but act like you got some home training. Kamala, Kamala, ooh. I'm so lit, I don't know what I'ma do. And now that she running for president, we ready like Freddie. Joe chose us, so we coming through. She reppin' AKA, I'm reppin' DST, but we are all the same. Call it Greek unity. She is my sister, I am her pusher. First lady, president, she is the president. Now I'ma waste one lyric talking about the opposition. That's the bed you wanna lie in, don't sleep on his lying. A DEI hire? The devil is a lie. Try to denigrate her, but she's still overqualified. Now let me tell you why they really mad. She said no to Prop 8 and make the gays glad. Only thing she locked up was the nomination. But your IQ lower than your vibrations. Now tell me, why you wanna hate on Kay Harris? You the one mediocre, but you acting like she average. Your accomplishments amount to petty Instagram spat. She a whole freedom fighter, got the ancestors clapping. And nah, I ain't saying that she perfect, but I'm 1,000% that she worth it. Formidable, unforgettable, living history eloquently. Kamala will make America great. Kamala, Kamala, ooh. I'm so lit, I don't know what I'ma do. And now that she running for president, we ready like Freddie. Joe chose us, so we coming through. She reppin' AKA, I'm reppin' DST, but we are all the same. Call it Greek unity. She is my sister, I am her pusher. First lady, president, she is the president. Say it with me now. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. And we will. Get on your left, right, making strides to revitalize. So get in line. Black women for Kamala say. Hey. Black men for Kamala say. Hey. White folks for Kamala say. Hey. Everybody for Kamala say. Hey. Latino people for Kamala say. Hey. LGBTQ for Kamala say. Hey. Childless ladies with cats for Kamala say. Hey. USA for Kamala say. Hey.
I have to say that's my first time seeing it. You did a great job. I mean, it wasn't like I didn't know you would, but like it's really dope. Like, because I see like snippets, but it's really dope. I really love the little baby and her little glasses.
Oh my gosh, she was so cute.
She was so cute. She was so cute.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody that has been here for the last hour and a half. Open it up for any questions before we log off, or any last thing you want to say?
Well, thank you for this platform. I appreciate the fact that you continue to lend your platform to uplift voices like mine and the Ingenues. And I think, it's just really bold what Ingenue is doing, because it's so easy to get blackballed as an actress and for speaking up, or as an athlete, so I just admire her passion, and it is encouraging for me too, because I think the stakes are a little lower for me because I'm a comedian. Just keep doing the work, and I'll keep doing the work as best I know how as well. So I think we're on the right track, and we'll look back on this and be proud of the work we've done so far.